I had a great experience with Catherine Keener because, I introduced her to her puppet studio. So they're...
The puppet studio, we could do a whole episode on.
I'm sure.
You have such phenomenal details in there, down to minuscule little patterns hanging on the wall. All the instruments they use, the dressing underneath the tables. I mean, I said to you last year when we were nominated for Veep and you didn't get nominated for Kidding, I would like to give you my nomination because I can't believe how great that show looked.
Well, thank you.
And I absolutely believe it. That set to me was like, man, there's a lot of sets I'm like, I could have never done that, but I could have never done that. You have such a gift of details that are so relevant to the characters, but you don't even know it. Mm-hmm. Like when you're watching it, you're just like, oh, this is a Muppet. And then you're like, oh my God, is that like, are there scissors back? Are there safety scissors back there? Like, why would they use it? Or like, so I'm going to ask, obviously working on the Muppets helped.
It did.
So you had some sort of reference from their actual studios?
Well, one, I had reference from their actual studios, and two, I just lived that show. I lived a show that was with puppets, that was a live show, because that's what Miss Piggy's Up Late with Miss Piggy was supposed to be. That was so I lived that, and then dealing with the puppeteers on Muppets. We all are in the trenches together, literally the trenches. You're in 40...
I remember running into it like a furniture store and you're like, I'm looking for a third scale sofa or something. Like, I gotta cut the feet off of something. And I'm like, Don, I can't help. I think we were Wirtz Brothers or something.
Yes.
I was like, I can't help you, man.
Oh my God. How many times has Wirtz Brothers saved my ass?
Saves me all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
But, so, there was that reference of having done it with the Muppets, and okay, here we're putting on a show, except we're putting on a show with puppets, so there's these considerations for the puppets and the puppeteers. And so I came into Kidding knowing that the puppeteers are king, because they are. If you're going to have the puppets, the actors work, they better have accommodations to make that work. And then I also, and that was some of the photos I think I sent you, were of both visiting an old friend, somebody I've known almost for 20 years, James Hayes, who designs walk-around costumes and puppets. And I went and photographed James's house and his studio, because he has his studio on his property, and he's an independent, right? So that's it's him, and he hires people with him, but they work out of the place. And that had a whole character to it too, right? It's homey, it's his own. It's not corporate in any way, so he can do what he wants. And then I went to Swazzle's studio, and both James Hayes and Swazzle were building 50% of the puppets on the show. So Swazzle built 50%, and James Hayes built 50%. And we went to Swazzle, and I didn't know them, the twins. I've never heard of them. And they're in Glendale, and they are also professional puppet manufacturing craftsmen, but they're a lot more organized. And I want to say anal but it's not even that. It's just logical. They're logical. Yeah. And James is much more of sort of just revels in the fact that he is an artist, and he can be that.
What great reference to have two different examples.
I didn't know it at the time when I was doing it. I didn't know that was how I would use that reference, but it became clear that Deirdre was James Hayes, and Swazzle became WROT, the puppets shop at WROT.